I'm going to post links in the description to other online places. The Mayo Clinic has a lot of very detailed information about SVT, how it's an umbrella term, all the different symptoms and complications that can be involved. I move the camera when I do that. Oh, I gotta be careful. It's been such a long time since I sat down to record a video, and I'm kind of nervous to make this one purely because it's been a while since I've sat down to make a video, and also it's a little bit of a delicate topic. I'm worried in case I say something and people might be a little bit offended if they also have SVT or if they have similar heart conditions and they're upset by how I've described it or whatever. Please not be offended. I want to start by prefacing this video by saying that unless otherwise stated, all of the opinions and all of the symptoms I describe are my own. So unless I tell you explicitly this came from this website, this came from this doctor, this came from this person, everything else I say in this video is from my own personal experiences, my own personal opinion, and my own personal just experience, again, just because English grammar, perfect. First of all, I'm going to give a very brief description of what SVT actually is. So SVT stands for Supra Ventricular Tachycardia. This is actually kind of funny because I'm going to have it written up on the screen here. One of the reasons why I decided to make this video now instead of putting it off even longer was because of a situation I found myself in on Facebook, which was funny, and I want to get into that in a moment. But, so it's called supraventricular tachycardia. It's kind of an umbrella term from what I've read online and from what my cardiologist told me. It's kind of an umbrella term, there's a fly in my room. It's kind of an umbrella term for having heart issues that relate to impulses, electrical impulses between your brain and your heart, and them not correlating properly. In my case, the cardiologist told me that either my heart doesn't receive them properly or my brain doesn't send the electrical impulses properly. There's something wrong with electrical impulses basically with my heart. That's why I have a heart condition. So my SVT, as described to me by my cardiologist, means three things. First of all, I have an irregular heartbeat, which for a long time panicked everybody because they thought it could be a heart murmur, and heart murmurs can be dangerous if they're not treated or monitored, so they were trying to figure out if it was a heart murmur, how long I'd had it for, how long it needed, how long it had been ignored for, if it needed extra attention, etc, etc. So that was a huge concern for everybody. So instead of my heartbeat being bump bump, bump bump, bump bump, mine is more bump bump bump, bump bump bump, bump bump bump, which I've known about for years, ever since I was a child, in fact. I always just thought when you saw it in TV shows or movies or you read about it in a book that they simplified it down for some strange reason. I never put together that extra almost half a beat was wrong. I don't know why. So yeah, I just kind of for years basically thought, this is normal, this is completely fine, this is how a heart normally functions. This is great, but it's not. If you feel that you have a half a heartbeat or an extra heartbeat, or maybe sometimes what used to happen between mine is I go bum, 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 bum. Any kind of irregularity at all, you should have it checked out by your doctor and or a cardiologist as soon as possible. So second symptom or complication, however we want to look at it, of my heart condition is I have a faster heart rate. The majority of people in my age group, so between the ages of 18 to 35 I think is this age group that we're talking about here, they should have a resting heart rate between 60 and about 85 beats per minute. My resting heart rate was 156. And it was funny because when I was first told an actual number, without me trying to guess it for myself, because in secondary school before we did PE class we would have to check our pulses before and after exercise, and before exercise I always got 120, 130, and after I always got 220, 230, but I always thought I was miscounting. Maybe there was I don't know, maybe my teacher was after calculating 6 seconds wrong. I have no idea. But yeah, so when I actually saw and was told definitively that my resting heart rate was between 150 and 165 beats per minute. That kind of showed me why everybody else was so concerned about me. Why, when I told people for the first time, hi, I think I might have a problem with my heart, everybody freaked out about it. Everybody. And that's because it's not right. It's not meant to be that high at all. When I got stressed, it hit the 200s at one point. Like I said, when I was doing exercise stuff for PE class, I was measuring up in the 220s, 230s. It got dangerously high for a while. When I was calming down after a stressful period, I saw 183 on my heart monitor, but they wouldn't let me look at it again because, again, being aware of it can also trigger a faster heart rate. It can trigger panic, which can create a faster heart rate and even palpitations. So they were trying to stop me from stressing and trying to stop me from knowing exactly how bad it was to stop it from getting worse. The third symptom then that I have is that I'm prone to palpitations. So palpitations, for those who don't know, is not just a faster heartbeat. It's not just having, you know, oh, you just done some exercise, you know, whatever. Palpitations is when your heart just kind of almost randomly, or obviously there's a trigger, but you might not always be sure what the trigger is. Your heart just starts beating super fast, sometimes very hard as well, which can be more alarming because that can actually make you feel physically sick. So for me, palpitations used to happen a lot when I was asleep at night. And for a long, long time I thought I had a form of sleep paralysis because I used to wake up in the middle of the night for seemingly no reason, and my heart would be beating so fast and so hard, I would be sweating. If I moved, and not even if I moved like my finger like this, it would get so much worse. It would be a million times worse, and I felt sick to my stomach. I felt like I was about to throw up, and I also have a fear of throwing up. Anytime I throw up, I always end up having anxiety attacks because I absolutely hate the feeling. I hate obviously nobody likes throwing up, but for me there's an extra added fear. It's not supposed to happen, okay? Yeah. So I used to try and lie there for hours, trying to calm down my heart by myself, trying not to throw up everywhere. There were several times, this used to happen to me like twice a week for years. And I used to think that this is how I'm going to die. I'm not going to wake up in the morning. This is just how it ends for me. And then I wake up in the morning and I kind of played it down and thought, I must have dreamt half of that. Maybe it's just sleep paralysis. That's meant to be scary. I made up so many excuses for it because I was scared and I didn't want to have to face the fact that it might actually be a problem. So if you suffer something similar, please go to a cardiologist. It turns out my parents told me only recently. I was diagnosed with my heart condition in 2016. But I was only told like last year by my parents that I used to suffer from horrible night terrors as a child, which explains why I have trouble sleeping now, and it also explains the trigger for my heart palpitation episodes in bed. So they really should have told me sooner, and they felt bad about it, so yeah. If you think this is happening to you, if you think this is a problem, please, 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 please go and have it checked out by somebody. Please. They finally took me in and they asked me for my medical history. I tried to explain to them that I have another condition called Rayner's phenomenon. Rayner's phenomenon basically means when your fingers and your toes mostly, but it can happen to your ears. It can also happen to, like, depending on how serious it is, it can actually travel up your legs or up your arms. But basically, on a very, very, very small level, it means that when your fingers or your toes get too cold, your blood capillaries spasm and they stop blood flow to the tissue, which means that your fingers and your toes end up losing blood, getting colder, you can't move them as much. So instead of being able to do this, you're able to go like this. It's much more difficult to move your hands when they're too cold and they have no blood in them. And then they eventually just start turning blue. They can turn dark purple, they can turn black. You can get like a form of frostbite in them because they have no blood. They have no blood flow. So if you don't warm your hands up and keep them warm regularly, then you might end up losing functions in your fingers and your toes. You might end up losing, it can get very serious. So I told them about this as well as the scoliosis. They told me the Rayner's was it's irrelevant. We're going to ignore that. Thank you very much. Which I thought, fine. Okay. It's just my hair. That was being attacked by a spider. So, yeah. They put cannulas in every which way. In here, in the tops of my hands. They took blood for thyroid testing, for glandular testing, other tests. There might be a bag of my blood somewhere that they just kept as a souvenir. I don't know. They took so much blood off of me basically, and they kept coming back and asking for more blood, which wasn't very nice. Then they hooked me up to a heart monitor, but they told me not to focus on the heart monitor because it's going to stress me out even more, which was funny because at one point I saw my resting heart rate was 156 beats. Like I think I already mentioned. I don't know. This is the second time I sat down to record this, so I'm not sure what I've said anymore. Anyway, and after being stressed and calming down, I saw 183, so I was told not to look at the monitor again just in case it caused another spike. I had to do, like I said, they took blood off of me for different tests because sometimes different, like a thyroid problem or a glandular problem can also cause heart problems. That wasn't it. They took me for an x-ray because I told them about the scoliosis and they were worried because my scoliosis, the curve isn't so bad, it's the twisting part of my ribcage which is worse. They were worried that my ribcage was twisting and impacting on my heart, but they did an x-ray and they found that wasn't the case. They also wanted to see if my heart had any physical deformities, so I went for a, what do you call them? You do them for babies. I can't remember what they're called. Like, the camera angle might be slightly different. I paused for a moment to try and think of the word because I felt like an idiot. Anyway, yeah, an ultrasound, that's what it's called. So they also performed an ultrasound to check to see if my heart had any weird abnormalities or if it was malformed or whatever, and they found that it wasn't. And then they did a stress test. So then the stress test was they got me onto a treadmill. I warned them ahead of time, I get dizzy very easily. So I was only on the treadmill for maybe 5 or 7 minutes. It wasn't that long. But basically the whole point of the stress test was to see if my heart rate increased steadily with more exercise or if it shot right up way too fast. If it increases steadily, it means that you're relatively fit and healthy, that you maintain yourself pretty well. If it shoots right up off the charts, it means that you're unhealthy and that your heart problem probably isn't related to anything that they can fix. It's got to do with you, how much you eat, how much you exercise, and all that jargon. Yeah, after doing all of these tests, they eventually determined that there's an issue between my brain sending electrical impulses to my heart and my heart interpreting those correctly, which is why I have an irregular heartbeat as well as a faster heart rate, and which is why I'm prone to palpitations. So finally, my treatment is pretty basic, I think, pretty simple. I take a beta blocker, so I take half of the tablet first thing in the morning and take another half 12 hours later in the evening. And the reason for that is when I was leaving the hospital, remember I mentioned that Rayner's phenomenon, the fingers thing? They had ignored this information, they had not written it down on my records, so that when they gave me my first set of beta blockers, I had noticed my fingers getting a little congested. I'd noticed I'd felt colder. I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was just the hospital environment. I get cold anyway. Whatever. However, they could not find my pulse on the day I was being discharged, and they told me that they couldn't let me leave until they had a final pulse rate. So we found out from my cardiologist. He and I were working together on this, and he discovered that the beta blocker that they had prescribed for me, had been giving to me for 4 days at this point, was actually creating the Raynaud's effects. So without my fingers or my toes actually being cold, the beta blocker was creating that effect and creating a situation for my fingers and toes to freeze up. So he asked me, why didn't you mention this when you first came in? And my mother was sat there and said she did. They didn't listen to her. So he ended up changing my prescription the day I left. So because of the other beta blocker, he had given me half of that tablet first thing in the morning. It was working fine when I wasn't walking around and doing my own, doing anything basically in the hospital. So about a week after I was released, I was having half a heart tablet first thing in the morning, and I was realizing that about the 12 hours later, my heart was already going sky high, huge big heart rate problems. So I went to my GP and explained to him that I don't think it's lasting, maybe, do I need to go back to hospital again? Do I need to have more checkups done? And he said, no, what we'll do is we'll increase it, we'll do a half in the morning and a half 12 hours later, and we'll see how that goes. And about a week later, everything was completely fine, completely balanced out. My heart rate at the moment sits between 70 and about 85 beats at rest, which compared to 156 to 165, that is such a huge improvement. It's been halved, basically. That's healthy. I'm all good. Everything's good now. I've also been told to cut out alcohol and caffeine, which I have done. I'm a member of a writing group on Facebook. It's a writing group focused on the fanfiction community, more specifically Archive of Our Own. So this person in the group said that they wanted a heart condition that's not dangerous but needs to be monitored, that anybody could have at any age. And of course I thought, gonna throw in my 2 cents here. I have SVT. It can happen to people of any age. We should try and destigmatize the heart condition. So I commented and I said that I have this thing called Supra Ventricular Tachycardia. This is how I was diagnosed. This is how I symptoms, blah blah blah. A little bit like this video, but a lot more concise and a lot less talking and ramble in the middle. And this woman, I'm going to blur out her name, but this woman replied to me, and she was basically, it was kind of funny, she was passive aggressively trying to correct me, because she wrote in a separate comment to mine that she had supraventricular tachycardia. Now, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I tried googling this to see if supraventricular tachycardia as opposed to supraventricular tachycardia was maybe a slightly different condition, maybe it was another branch of heart conditions. No, she had spelled super incorrectly. It is supraventricular tachycardia. You can try it yourselves if you want to Google in a separate tab to this video, or when you've finished watching this. If you want to try Googling supraventricular tachycardia, Google corrects you and rewrites it as supraventricular tachycardia. That's what the condition is called. But this woman wrote super in capitals, trying to make a point that apparently I was wrong in some way. But then she went on to say that she only had it, and that she had it fixed when she was 24 years old. She had an ablation. I looked this up. I was not offered this. One of my solutions was to have a pacemaker installed, which further just solidifies this idea for me that she and I have different forms of SVT. Yeah, so she basically tried correcting me on something that was, in our case, is clearly very different forms of something, but it also just her calling it super, and she said that she went super, and I thought of, is it Dragon Ball Z or is it Naruto? Somebody at some point goes super. They just like get hyped or something, I don't even know. That's all I could think of, and I thought it was ridiculous. June is Scoliosis Awareness Month, so for those who are seeing this video on my channel for the very first time, if you didn't know, basically, I have scoliosis. I made a video 2 years ago now, I think. It's been a while. 2 years ago now. I will link it. I think I know how to do the thing where I can link it up above or down below. If you want to go watch that video and learn about another one of my medical conditions, then I'll have it linked above, hopefully, and below. I also plan on making a video talking about having braces, simply because I had braces for 4 to 4.5 years, and then I also had retainers for a long time, and I've had an array of strange questions over the years asking about what they do with braces, how they're put on, how they're taken off, what you do when you have them on, and I've had a lot of bizarre questions, people asking if they remove your teeth and put them back in, and I'm just, no honey, no they do not. So I'm going to be making a video about braces, and I have a couple of other video ideas lined up too. So if you enjoyed this video at any point, please do give it a like. It'll help other people who either have SVT or know somebody else with SVT get the information that they maybe are looking for, that they need. If you liked this video, if you think I gave good information, please do give it a thumbs up. If you want to leave a comment, if you want to create awareness and share it somewhere else, please do. And if there's anything that I didn't answer or explain in the video, leave a comment down below and I might readdress this in a couple of months' time. So thank you very much for watching. Bye!